be recovering from Gen Con 1 week later. It's all good. Got a little bit of the con crud. Obviously been pushing very hard after Gen Con, so instead of relaxing and recovering, doing a lot of research, working on some prototypes, and a lot of fun late time birthday stuff that I was squeezing in after the big show. Hello and welcome all. Video Garver, great to see you. Alright, so we talked about last week digging in and focusing a little more on actually prototyping some of the ideas that we come up with on the stream, because I think there's a lot of really awesome stuff and I'd love to get more of these things out in the world, or at least create them and see where things go from there. So last week, get out our brainstorm. We got some cool stuff with our mind mapping. Our term that we started with was comeuppance. And we were trying to create games that captured this feeling or this experience of doing mean stuff to other people and then eventually having that come back to haunt us. So came up with some ideas related to comeuppance, and then ideated this balance mechanism where you have a lever and a ball, and you're stacking and balancing things, and you don't know exactly when the whole thing is going to topple. And then we came up with this idea of so I can show my first prototype. Let's see if this shows up on the camera. I might have to hold it to the other one. Video Garver. Sad you're having lag. I think it's looking okay on my end. Hope that's not something that I have done. Get this lever centered. Ooh, and I bought some marbles. It was funny looking at my components. I was like, I'm sure I have marbles somewhere. I did not. So I purchased some, which was super fun. Yeah, so here is my original lever. The idea was to pile things on the other end of it until eventually you get enough weight there and the whole thing tips over and knocks things off. And my marble is going on a grand adventure. So this was the start of my balance mechanism. The stacking was a little weird with this rail down the center. So I moved on to, I believe it was Game Biologist, originally mentioned having a contained lever with the weights on the inside. So this one is a contained tube, and you can still easily stack stuff on top of it. These are my first magnetic weights that I had here. They were a little heavy, so make it a little lighter with the marbles inside the container. And now you can stack things. These will be tokens. I've had the most success stacking with tokens, but the cardboard ones I had were a little light. So I'm going to be ordering some washers and playing around with that. Again, the idea is once the weight tips over, the marble shoots down, and ideally some of this would fall off because you would lose points for that. The tricky part with where I've gotten the prototype to is because it's a smooth track inside it, you can tell pretty much when things like the next one will knock it over. And what I'd really like to create is a sense of uncertainty. So maybe I can stack 10 things, or maybe I can stack 15, and I never know exactly when that's going to happen, which is a little tricky to capture. So I would say it's a prototype. I don't want to say it's not a thing. I made a thing, tested it, it's pretty cool, but definitely with this sort of a physical manifestation as opposed to a more strategic mechanical thing, I'm going to want to play around with it a little more and see what comes up. But most importantly, I created a thing based on our idea last week, and it was super fun, and excited to show it off. Video Garver, sorry your internet has been janky. I hope that the stream is still somewhat watchable, even with that. Hello, Senior Bob and Kriegzilla. Thanks for tuning in today. Just showing off my lever prototype here. Yeah, this is pretty cool. I did some rapid prototyping with cardboard, which is what I have on hand. Cardboard has, with the ribbing inside of it, has some interesting prototyping facets to it, so it can be a kind of weird material to work with. It's very common. Usually have some of it lying around your house, which is nice. But I'm thinking of acquiring some foam core for this kind of production I could play around with it a little more. I could work on the ribbing inside of the channel to give some variability to how the dice rolls inside of it. Yeah, anyways, that was last week. Today is this week, and we're going to come up with some new games. Kriegzilla, that's super cool. The hidden marbles, I think, have a ton of potential. I think so too. I've been trying to push the boundaries a little bit with design and make things that I'm not sure what to do with them. So with this one in particular, it's fun but also scary because I have this thing that I made. I'm like, but is it a game? Is it fun? Where do I go from here? It can be a little, for someone like me who's trying to make things and get things out there, it can be a little nerve-wracking not to have kind of a seen path. It's all very murky right now, what it's going to end up being. But people are interested and excited about it, so it's fun. Making weird stuff is fun and kind of stressful sometimes, but I'm excited to get more weird stuff out there. All right. Another week, another brainstorm session. For those of you, if it's your first time joining us, the idea is we're going to create a brainstorm / mind map on this piece of paper right here. Going to come up with some ideas. Anyone can throw out a concept to start with. I don't have anything in mind. I have no plans for what it's going to be. We're going to talk about and evolve the ideas until we have something game-esque, and then build that out a little bit with some notes over here on the brainstorm sheet and the drawings. Usually we get through about a couple of hours, kind of finalize the concept, and my most recent thing is I have been prototyping that and posting pictures. Still trying to figure out how I can stream that part of it. I'm thinking now I just gotta bite the bullet and get another camera so I can have a stream set up with just showing that. I think that would be pretty cool, but one thing at a time. So first we're going to brainstorm and ideate. Senior Bob, maybe divots on the inside that can hinder the rolling of the marble. Not sure that fits with what you're trying to accomplish. Oh yeah, absolutely. That's definitely my next plan for this prototype. One person suggested a divot right in the center so the marble sits there, or even just, depending on how I have the cardboard set up, if I just remove the first layer, it's going to have the internal ribbing of the substrate material. So I could just have that, or just make a lot of holes along it, or I used hot glue to put it together, so put like some hot glue bumps on there. A lot of fun stuff. It's probably going to take a lot of prototyping, so I'm just being unnecessarily thinking about it as like, oh, I'm going to do a bunch of stuff. A bunch of it's not going to work out. Maybe none of it's going to work out, but that's okay, right? That's why we do this and enjoy it, because experimentation is fun. Speaking of which, if no one is anything they're super committed to, I'm going to start with the word experiment. That sounds like a cool concept to start today's idea with. Mad scientist. Yeah, as soon as I start thinking about experimentation, think of test tubes. Those beakers, right? Beakers and flasks. Weird liquid in here, lots of bubbles, shooting out sparks, foaming. Yeah, so that's one direction, thinking about this concept, this idea of experimentation. Going down the one route of mad scientists, kind of the scary movie slash weird science style of the movie, right? With a lot of teenage movies from the 80s, I feel. 80s and early 90s had this. The Explorers, right? Where they had tinfoil wrapped around things, like lots of monitors, shoot the lightning balls that generate sparks from them. I think I just watched Wet Hot American Summer in the theater because they were showing it, which is super cool. And I think they have one of the best dumb science scenes of all. They have the thing with the trash can and they have donuts glued to it, and it's a little bit of a spoof movie. So you can definitely see how they were spoofing a lot of the other science-y movies at the same time. They came out around the same time. Weird Science, Explorers. And then the other side of the brainstorm, thinking about experimentation and experiments, there's a very rigorous science system to it. I remember back in school when we would do experiments, and it was very structured for here's our hypothesis and here's our methodology we're going to use, here's the data we're going to collect, and then you collect that data, and it's very rigorous. Scientifically rigorous. And that's important, right? Having a system that you execute the same time every way, because if you're doing science, quote unquote, you don't want to have any factors that would tarnish your results or affect your results, right? It's really important to have things be properly structured so that you can prove you did things correctly. So you're about experimental rock music. Yeah, sure. Love it. Experiment rock music. Senior Bob, do you have some examples of experimental rock music? I don't know too much about music in general. I listen to music. I know what I like. I never remember the names of any songs or any bands. But if I hear it, like we did karaoke a couple of days ago, yes, like this. Probably didn't help my recovery at all. Late night, loud singing. But there would be the song, it would be like, wait, I don't know this song. As soon as it starts playing, you know what it is. But yeah, I'm interested to know more about experimental rock music. I know some music was experimental when it came out, but then was subsequently subsumed into popular culture. At this point, be like, oh, that's not experimental rock. That's just rock. Let's do some research. Experimental. Okay, of course, because I love puns. I'm gonna put experimental rock. Rocks are hard to draw, by the way. Geological rock. See, we could tie together the science and the rock music. All right, experimental rock or avant rock is a subgenre of rock music which pushes the boundaries of common composition and performance technique, or which experiments with the basic elements of the genre. Cultural origins, 1960s. Art rock, neo-psychedelia. I think the other interesting thing about music genres in general is it's such its own world. I try to dig into a little bit because I want to be able to talk about what kind of music I enjoy, but it's just labyrinthine. And you start to get in there, it's like, oh, I think I like electronica, and then you listen to a bunch of electronica, and first of all, there's like 20 like nobody actually says electronica. They're like, well, that's not even really a subgenre. Like, do you mean dubstep, or again here, neo rock, or yeah, I can't even remember the names of things, but ooh. Again, this is branching off. This is why these brainstorms are cool. Branching off from this, not even really thinking about experiments, but music genres. I feel like there's a whole fascinating thing getting into music genres, not even thinking about music genres, the specific real ones that exist, but just the idea of categorization. And making a branching category tree for something that doesn't exist. Because mechanically, if you think about the way that musical genres have evolved, it's very fascinating. Let's start off our notes here. Again, not sure yet if this is going to be a game, if this is the direction we're going in. But it's tickling the funny bones with my imagination right now. It's interesting too because it's a cooperative, competitive sort of a thing, or co-opetitive, which I've been seeing and hearing a lot recently. Co-opetitive. Because you think about people evolving musical genres, everyone's working on the same thing, creating new types of music, for example. But there's a lot of, again, something that makes it tricky to get into as someone who hasn't really been exposed a lot to that, is everyone starting to call the same thing different things. So, first of all, having the same name for different things. And second of all, having different names for the same things. And this goes back to what we're talking about, experimentation and scientific categorization being very rigorous. Very particular rules for how things are named, I guess. And then music categorization, free-flowing, different names for the same things, same name for different things. As a sidebar, I was recently talking to someone who said music was a really tough theme for board games. You might be here on the stream too, so you'll know about this. I'm not sure if they were being facetious, but they pointed out, how many successful games do you know that focus on a core theme of music? I thought about it and realized I don't know of any, which is not to say there can't be any, for themes, successful themes. Often there will be a theme that's not super popular, like insects, right? Are there any super popular insect games? Hive, yes. I say Hive, but before Hive, were there any other insect games? So some game has to be the first game that's the most popular in that theme. Dear Bob, there are so many subgenres of music. I like downtempo, which is a type of electronica. Exactly. Let's do electronic music subgenres. My difficulty too is I get caught up in the actual name of some of these subgenres. Ooh. Can I just share this search? It's like, how do I share searches? All right, if you just do a search for electronic music subgenre, right at the top of the page, it comes up with a lot of cool stuff. I get caught up in just liking the names of these things. So Witch House, right? Like Witch House, I don't even know what that is, but I want to listen to it. But music is such a personal thing that you make a picture in your mind before you realize what the thing is. And then often you're disappointed with what it turns out to be. So I've noticed this, and because I like the theory of electronic music, and there's a few songs in particular that have really stuck with me that have high energy that kind of evolve over the course of the song. So it's a very blood pumping, emotional journey of a song, and with some ethereal vocals and some really interesting harmonization and a good balance of feeling organic and technical. So that's what I'm looking for in songs. I'm just gonna write that down. I like techno, and again, techno is like an old term for electronic music, maybe. I don't even know, right? An energetic beat rhythm. So you literally feel like you just want to get up and pump your fists and like throw your body around because it just like sets you on fire. Emotionally, not actually. Rising action evolves over the course of the song. So it has different acts. If it's the same constant throughout, you don't really feel that rising and falling action. Balances technical sound. That's probably not with organic sound. Ethereal voices, complex harmony. So I have this picture in my head what I want from a techno or electronica song, and then I'm looking over here at some of the genres, like got here bassline, Witch House. Again, now I gotta look that up because that sounds very fascinating. Machina. I don't even know what that is. New beat. Footwork. You see, I think we have something here for starting a game, because I'm looking at these like, I have no idea what that is. You could have literally stuck two words together. So that could be a cool thing for categorization of something. Of question mark. Ooh, also as a sub idea to what we're talking about here, or one group, we'll say, because it could be individuals or groups, names a thing within a category, sure. Then the other group has to figure out what that is, or there's maybe a back and forth action, so of naming and categorization until you finally get the things to overlap. Naming and describing until you finally meet in the middle. This reminds me a little bit of a game my friend Javion showed me today called Medium, also Wavelength, which had a Kickstarter recently and is going into production. Has something similar along these lines. I'm gonna name some more of these electronic things because they're just fascinating. Grime. See, again with grime, right? Thinking of the word grime just makes me think of dirtiness. But what does that mean in musical terms? That it's not consistent, that it doesn't have a strong rhythm, that it's just really harsh and dark. There's so many different things that could mean. Future bass. Dubtronica. Oh my gosh. This makes me this is just fascinating, right? Lento violento. There's like 50 things in here. Yes. Like, I don't even know where lento violento. I can't even begin to imagine. Electronic core, and another thing mechanically interesting, half of these things are just taking half of one name and half of another name and mashing them together. It's like you took the words bass, electronic, core, tempo, and just used learning algorithms or a random word generator to smash them together. So that could be an interesting thing to mechanize. Electronic, bass, core. Mash them randomly together. So mechanically you might get some cards for those things. And then have funny words to put into that, or funny is not. Have theme words, unexpected words, descriptive words that means something. Like witch is a very descriptive word. What is it? I don't know what it means, but it feels very descriptive. Something? Question mark? So like witch, ghost, drama, ice cream core, maybe, right? That could be a type of music. Funhouse. Yeah. Cool. We're making music post-disco, right? I don't know what that is. Space music. Electro clash. Folktronica. That sounds cool. That might be, with the vocals, that might be up my alley. So, okay, if you're just tuning in, half and half, we're trying to think of a game around categorization, not of music specifically, but of something. And we're also trying to figure out what kind of music I would enjoy. Because I haven't been able to figure that out yet. It's been bothering me. Because I can't tell people when they ask, like, what kind of music do you like? I'm like, well, like, punk, but like 90s emo punk as opposed to real punk. Vaporwave crunkcore. Crunk is a good flavor word. Crunkcore. See, what's the difference between crunk and crunkcore? Who knows? Who could even tell me that? Which house sounds spooky? Yeah, it's probably some Halloween-y type thing. Reminds me of how typeface names get pretty crazy. Yeah. Again, I don't think this game should necessarily be about music, because I think there's too much mental overhead that would shoehorn it into a particular thing. Mental overhead. Typefaces get named, how species get named. Oh, what else gets named in a weird way? How games get named? Go meta with this. How spaceships get named. Boats get named. What was that one they did the poll for? Bodie McBoatface. I love that's in our brainstorm now. Bodie McBoatface. Words that evoke a feeling or an aesthetic. Yeah, that's what I want. Descriptive words. I'm gonna copy that over because that's in my brain. That's what was trying to come out, and that's what it ended up as. Right. Crunk parkour. Crunkcore. Shoot. Amalgam. There's a term for words that are smashed together of other words. Also, my bullet points got weird here. I want that to be bullet points. Yeah, normal bullet points. Sweet. That's not how you spell that. Amalgam? Yeah. Smashed together. What is it called when words are smashed together? Together. Autocomplete is weird. Oh, portmanteau. Yes. Oh, that's such a good word in and of itself. I think portmanteau is a portmanteau too, which is really cool. Okay, I got a sidebar to see if portmanteau is a thing on Board Game Geek, because if not, I'm totally locking that down. I'm sure it is. Ah. Yeah, how high is it rated? You shouldn't ever do this. I shouldn't do this, but whenever I think of a name/theme concept that's very compelling, and I don't know of another game called that, I look it up on BGG. It's an exercise in futility, because pretty much every word has ever been used on Board Game Geek. Walnut. Okay. Wait. Sidebar. Portmanteau is a list on Board Game Geek. But I don't know if there's an actual game called Portmanteau. So we could do this, chat. This could be our thing. This could be our game. Yes. Dibs. Totally calling dibs on that. It's okay. Yes, Senior Bob. Yeah, you got it. I had to look it up. Google's great for that, though. Google's my friend. I feel, because I do the same thing to Phil, or I'll get frustrated. I'll be like, but what's it called when you have two people who are, like, just starting to become friends, but they're not super close friends yet? He's like, you are not, I don't think that's a real thing. I'm like, no, it's a thing. Google's great at that. I just Googled, what's it called when you smash two words together and you make a new word? It's like, it's portmanteau. I just imagine Google just clutching her forehead, just being like, it's, wow. It's, yeah. Here you go. I'm like, thanks, Google. Alright, Portmanteau, the game. Caravan was only recently entered on BGG. Yeah, I don't want to get too tied up in getting excited about a name for a game, especially like Portmanteau. I know what it is, but again, I didn't remember that was the name of it. And I like the word portmanteau. I like weird words. So I know what that is, but there's probably a lot of people who don't know what that is. I'm guilty of getting excited about names that are too clever for their own good. Just like Confabulous. Acquaintances. Thank you, Senior Bob. You're going to be my new Google. Or just go like, what is that thing called? What is this? And you can just make something up, because I won't. I'm like, yeah, it's probably correct. Portmanteau. Alright. So this went in an interesting direction. Started off our brainstorm with the idea of experimentation, got into experimental rock music, and then careened off into music genres completely away from test tubes. But I think we kind of came back to experimentation, language experimentation, right? And I like that as a kernel for the type of experience we're trying to create. I think the vibe of what I'd want for this barely half-formed nugget of a game is, oh man, sidebar, making another word/language game, so yay. Yeah, I don't want it to be about throwing things out there and being creative over getting things wrong and being punished. So, rewards for creativity, tying it back to our original brainstorm. Brainstorming, openness, excuse me. I'd also, again, thinking at this game, this emerging game concept idea from a high level, I want it to be something not necessarily heavy language based, so people could play it and enjoy it without necessarily knowing a lot of words, because I think that can be a hang up for people in a lot of word/language games where, hey, the person with the biggest vocabulary is the winner. I definitely don't want that, because there's enough games out there, right, that are like that. That's one thing I really appreciate about Wordsy as a word game, is often the best word is a short word, because there's a little bit of a time element to coming up with a good thing. Vocabulary. No. Don't necessarily need to know big or weird words. to win or be successful. All right. So far this seems like a potential interesting direction for a game. Could be competitive, cooperative, team-based. I was really excited that Javion showed me this new medium game today. The way it works is, I think it's either in teams or individual people are playing it. You have a hand of cards. One person puts a card down. The other player or team puts a card down. The goal is you're at the same time both going to yell out a word. So with the other person or team, you're trying to put down two cards where it's going to be completely obvious what the word is you're both going to yell out. I'm smiling because JV and I just played one card. We didn't play through the whole game, but he put down table and I put down board, and we both smiled because obviously game. Board and table, tabletop games, board games, because we're both big gamers. So that one was super easy, but that's part of the fun of it, right? Is coming upon those combinations where you're like, I know the other person, and I know we're both going to get this thing. But for the scoring, you can win if you and the person next to you on either side are the winner. So you win in pairs, basically, which is cool because you're always trying to maximize the score on both of your sides. But you're kind of going around the circle, and I guess multiple people are doing it at the same time, so there's a little bit of a chaotic element to it there. But as far as a light, fast party game, I like that it has a little bit of a structure to it. Alright, so what are we going to do? There's a lot of word/party games that play around in this space. So what are we going to do to differentiate it and make it interesting? Nekio. Hi from Norway. That emoji was a little hard to parse. It's like whale from Norway, but it's adorable. Hi. Hi, Nikio. Welcome to the chat. Glad you're joining us. We are coming up with board game concepts, trying to find the original structure for a game. Right now we're discussing putting two or more words, concepts together to categorize things in such a way like electronic music or like species are named. Flavors maybe could be an interesting thing. And right here we have a list of the kinds of things for electronic music in particular, taking some core word pools, adding on some flavor, almost like building a dish, right? That's what I like about this. Building a dish of food with a few base ingredients, add a splash of flavor. Cool. Yeah, so let's look at, I like the music thing. One potential way to look at this would be, again, things that already have weird names. Start making another list. Things that can be categorized. Music is a great one. Check here. Spaceships. Games. I think media genres in general. TV genres, movie genres, It's interesting. I think music is really interesting because there's so much of it and you can consume it so rapidly. So in the time it takes to watch 90-minute movie, you listen to 30 songs, 20 or 30 songs, right? Of as many genres. So it makes sense that there are more specific genres, whereas with movies, TV shows, art, I think is games a little bit, but some of these categorizations are much more narrow. So with art, like, some of your terms you could have the same, so like neo, classic, modern, structural, and then you have our words, our flavor words like witch, ghost, chewy. I don't know. Just throwing things out here. I'm trying to say things until my brain... So, chewy modern. Or neo-witch. I'm trying to figure out how the categories or terms could potentially be used for multiple types of categorization, or maybe you don't know what you're categorizing. Flavors, I guess. But some of these things don't necessarily go across items, right? If you're talking about flavors, your terms are going to be a little bit different. So for food, you might have like umami, mouthfeel, smoky. So it might need to be a bunch of different games. Or you start out with a category of music, movies, TV, etc. I am wondering though if there's a way to create categorization without knowing what the thing is that you're categorizing, like alien species, sweet stone fruit, food, or alcohol. Yeah. Spicy umami. Alright, yeah, so maybe you're here's the terms, and then again, you get those flavor words, and maybe you make those up. Like, alien umami. Yeah, so we have more questions than answers right now, but that's okay. We're feeling out the directions of this. And as with any of the designs we come up with on stream, we might land upon a genius idea, it's very exciting to work on, or it might completely fizzle and go nowhere. And I think that's an important part of ideation and design concepting, that you do the actions of it without knowing where it will end up or if it will work. Because I think that giving yourself, making it okay to fail, accepting that not everything you come up with is going to be a great idea, I think is a very powerful part of allowing yourself to be creative. So maybe you don't know what you're categorizing. Combine these words. Combine these words. We could go more in a storytelling direction. As I mentioned earlier in the ideation process, I like this idea of putting things down until you're getting closer and closer to consensus. Progress towards consensus. And then on the flip side of that, just putting together a paragraph, fumbling in the dark, sort of, for I don't know, maybe it could be an offshoot of and then we died, and then we listened to music. And everyone's piling on top of this. It's describe this song. So it had a really, and you're playing down these keyword cards, had a really earthy crunch to it. You know, like my terms up here. Okay, the other thing I like about this idea is I think one of the things that makes it hard for people to talk about or discuss these things is they don't want to feel dumb. They don't want to feel stupid, right? Talking about something you're just getting into, I'll say. It's like I get nervous telling people the kinds of music that I'm into because I'm afraid, because some people just know so much about it. Even when I was getting more into board games, just talking about them could be a little bit nerve-wracking because I might say something stupid, right? I might say something that I feel makes me look or sound like I don't know what I'm talking about, and I don't know what I'm talking about. So it should be fine, right? But it can still be, no one wants to look like that person. So you might just not say anything so you don't look stupid. Say, make it okay to be that person who doesn't know what they're talking about. And picturing, putting down these word cards with specific phrases on them, had a really earthy crunch to it, you know, as if someone just turn this, just get really wacky with it, turn these descriptors, these adjectives into verbs. Where was I? Down here. As if someone added some dub. And I say I laugh because I feel like I'm doing silly things here, but that's part of what I like doing in games, is allowing people, making a space for people to be silly in. Added some dub to the tempo, and then dialed in the footwork, minimal bass. I love the corniness of it. I think anything with being corny or puns, people get stressed out or worked up over it. I like to bring more of that into the world. Senior Bob says, saying you like an older game feels weird sometimes. Yeah, I just played Acquire for the first time. First printed in 1964, I believe, with newer versions after that. I think the version we played was printed in 1999, so the game's been around for almost 60 years? That sounds like a lot. Yeah, more than 50 years. And it was... I could see what made it an older, more mass market game. I would say it was on the more strategic side of mass market, but there's things in the game that modern design for hobby games tends to avoid a little bit. Like, there could definitely be a runaway winner to it. There were times when you would run out of money and you couldn't do a big chunk of the game, and you could be sitting there for 3 or 4 turns and not be able to buy any stock, which is a big portion of the game. And parts, like in the beginning, you have random tiles that you're putting down on the board where they go, but knowing where to put things the first few turns for your first playthrough could be very stressful. So you're like, you could put these anywhere. Where are you going to put them? And a casual gamer will just be like, oh, it doesn't really matter, I'll just put this down here. But a person like me who likes to min-max and is sometimes prone to analysis paralysis will be thinking there, trying to think out the through lines. But overall, I think it did pretty well for interesting choices, but not quite such abstract strategy where you would feel like you were really losing right at the beginning of the game. So this is an interesting one for a music genre. How about for a game genre? Your game genre. Yeah, you're a cat. Lots of roll and write with an occasional paralysis. Just breaking down these terms and reassembling them in weird ways. And an infinite turn conundrum. Interesting. As you can think about this, I'm going to think about this some more. I'm trying to grab this cat who he likes to poke me about an hour into my stream and remind me. It's like, you haven't been petting me. I know you're not doing anything important right now, so I'm going to poke you. And I'm honestly feeling a little stuck with where this idea is right now. Like, I like the idea of creating musical genres, and maybe let's look at country music genres. Like, maybe I can completely deny my friend's advice that music is a bad theme for board games. This could just be all about creating new music genres. Country music genre, blues. Alright, so we have all these cool ones, and there's like 40 or so at least for electronica. And there seems to be a good number for country music as well. Hey, let's just lean into it. I don't know if it will work, but let's just keep going, keep brainstorming till we come up with something that works. Franco country. Makes me think of Franken country. This game could totally just end up being weird, punny takes on music genres. Rockabilly, I like that. And then crossing over the different musical genres, you could get dub country, because that happens all the time, right? These things, I imagine a map, kind of like a mind map, spreading out for the genres, and they connect to each other in weird ways. Bro country is a thing. Excellent. Australian country music with a subcategory bush band. New country. Neo-traditional country. I can already see the ways that some of these could combine together. Post-disco. Especially if you get 3 or 4 of them together. Neo... You can get some crazy genres. Neo, traditional, disco dub. Cowboy western music, country rap. Country rap, and again with the crossovers here, country rap is also a subgenre of hip hop. Man. I'm on Wikipedia right now. I'm going to actually post this in case anyone wants to follow along at home. List of music genres and styles. Polka. I love how polka has its whole own thing. Doesn't pop have its own thing? Oh, I guess popular music is broken down into other, like all these things are just subgenres. Red dirt. That's cool. I don't know what that is, but that's just a type of dirt. Dance band music. Bakersfield sound. Americana. Country punk. Stylistic evolution of pop music. So there's art pop, brill building, bubblegum pop, progressive pop. Honky tonk music. Hip hop. Do we have genres of hip hop? Hip hop genres. Huh. So crunk is in here. I love my research voice for this stuff I'm finding. Crunk is in here. But crunk was also under electronica. Just saying. Jazz rap. Horrorcore hip life. Marin rap. I'm also not knowing what some of these things mean. I should probably do some more research off stream because I'm like, some of these things might be things I shouldn't be talking about with the, the interesting evolution and cultural evolutions of a lot of these terms. There could be things that are specific to particular cultures. Alright, so it could be interesting if we just take a bunch of these terms and smash them together and throw in, because there's unexpected things in here, right? Like grime, again, back to the witch house thing. Some of these are space music. Galaxy dub. Galaxy dirt dub. I mean, there's something mildly interesting. about making combinations across genres and throwing in some words they don't actually use to describe music. Crunchy or crunch. There aren't actually in any music description, music genre description. Like midwife. Again, just coming up with midwife jams. Midwife. Punkabilly. Punkabilly. Punkabilly-tronica. It also makes me think of that short, or that section on Saturday Night Live. I think it was Bill Hader. Was it Bill Hader? This club has everything. This club was Stefan, right? Yeah, it is Bill Hader. Stefan. I just categorized as Stefan. This club has everything. Like, this genre has everything. Cowboy backup dancers, unicorn, sparkle, glitter, eye stars. So let's think, what might this look like in the form of components or cards? It could just be pure, just have a chart. You know, I've been thinking more too about what formats games, quote unquote, can come in. I mentioned on Twitter last week that I was doing this teaching session for a pre-college program with a bunch of high schoolers, and me and a bunch of the other TAs, while the students were making games from existing games, like they'd break down Monopoly and make up new games, we were just playing around with actually a bag of Scrabble tiles tied at the top, so it was kind of a weighted bag, and we came up with 2 games just on the spot together. So one of them was interpretive, what was it? Dancing. Interpretive dance soccer, right? Where you're doing really flowing movements and you would pause between each, and then you were also trying to kick the bag across the floor between someone else's legs to score points. So that was the interpretive. Oh, and then there was dance DDR, RGM, Dance Dance Revolution, or DDR Rube Goldberg Machine, where you're all doing movements and passing the bag between your hands and trying to make it go all around the circle. So those were games, and they were fun. I just want to write it up and put it on my website so people can play it and maybe come up with their own stuff. But for this one, it might be, it could be a full production thing with cards, a bunch of cards that just say a word on them, like step, dub, house, rock, spicy. Oh, or it's a core is another good one. Spicy core. Step core. Core step. House step. Country. Ghost core. I like ghost. Star core. And then you combine 3 or 4 of these together. Let's go back up our list. What else? Neo-traditional. That's a longer word. What are some of the others? House. Yeah, we have house. Crunk. Postmodern. So I think throwing in some terms, like doing a categorization, you know, going through all these genres, maybe doing a poll on Twitter, coming up with everything, and then throwing in some things that aren't yet in there but kind of feel like they could be. I mean, if witch is in there, ghosts could be a thing, right? Or seesaw, ricochet core. All I kind of like the one syllable thing. Dunk, right? Dub. Like, why can't dunk be in there? I also like the kind of trolley idea of adding things into the lexicon so people aren't sure which is actually music terms and which aren't. And in the future, people are like, oh yeah. Oh man, my dream come true would be if people actually started naming music. They're like, oh yeah, that does sound like a thing. Yeah, my new dunk core, post dunk core band is all the rage right now. Anyway, thinking of cards or components, I'm not seeing like a super rigorous game design coming out of this, or nothing really super revolutionary. I don't know if it's broad enough to really justify this vision that I had about making a game called Portmanteau. It seems more basic, like music genres, and there could easily be a game about that, or even what's the right term for it? A car game, playground game, recess game, parlor game. I think parlor game is a pretty good general term for this. A parlor game is the thing like you're driving in the car, you're on a road trip, you're looking at license plates and playing a very light game off of that. The kinds of things that are passed down from sibling to sibling, from generation to generation. And it could be that kind of a thing, either with, up here, as I illustrated, just having a one-sheeter, right? Make a copy of this. We'll call it Portmanteau, because that's a cool word. Game rules. I like to put the date in there, so I'm like, what the heck was that, and why was I talking about that? All right, so we're doing brainstorming and prototyping live here. I'm just going to, I'm going to get rid of close that, everything except for the categories, because this could be a one-sheeter. That could be interesting, just having like 50 terms on a sheet of paper. I want to get a table. Oh my gosh, yes. Yeah, 8 by 20. Is that? Oh yeah. Can I just paste these into here? I might have to do that manually. I don't know if I can. I might want to do this in sheets, actually. Stand by as I go around and start messing around with my Google Docs. 'Cause I don't know if I can. 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 I don't know if I Nope, not in there. Right, where are we? We're in game design streams. Load, I try. So if I do it in sheets, there's a cool thing. You can make outlines around it, or you could just do it. You can do it with or without the outline, so I could just have a sheet with everything split up, but without it being in the squares, which is just nice having the choice to bump back and forth between that. Cool. Get this over here. This over here. Get rid of that table. Okay. Maybe if I put this values only. Ah, yes, it worked. Cool. And print portrait. Huh. Interesting. Centered. Fit to width. Just normal. Cool. So we could just do a one-sheeter, thinking about new ways to represent what a game looks like. A one-sheeter with like 200 word segments on it. And you just glance at the sheet and grab a bunch of them. That would be cool for a very light gameplay to it. You could grab a bunch of them, write it down, and then try to have people guess the words that you picked. Portmanteau of music genres. So very rules light party game. Party parlor game. That's kind of cool, right? Have a double-sided sheet. Have all the fragments on one side, have the rules on the back of it. Just something you can not even like fit the box of cards in your pocket. Just like a one-sheeter in your back pocket or on your phone even, right? Just a PDF that you could look up and play with. You pick 3 or 4 genre fragments. Describe the music style without saying the fragments, and the other team has to guess your fragments. You know, this style of a game is very familiar. You know, it feels like something that could definitely be a game. Maybe there's something very close to this that already is a game. But that's okay, you know, sometimes it's totally cool to use very familiar mechanics. Not everything needs to be totally new and innovative. In fact, sometimes being too innovative can be a bad thing. New is good. Pops. Pop. Punk. Post. I don't want post and modern to be too close to each other. Grime. Alright, we have bass. Spice punk. Spice, ghost, foot. I think in order to make this more of a game, you could play around with the actual words and see maybe there's some that work better than others. Maybe there's some that are a little too specific. Or some that are a little too broad. Senior Bob, want to make up genre names, but it sounds like there's no need for that. Folk game. Folk game, I like that. I don't know what it would end up being, but folk game, folk name. That's interesting. I mean, it could be. The music thing is an interesting start. Senior Bob has mentioned folk names here, where you have, this is a different direction potentially. But when you're naming things, as we mentioned before, earlier in the stream, sometimes different groups will call very similar music or even the same music by different genre names, or sometimes two very different styles of music will somehow the same name will pop up and you'll be like, oh, this is this type of music. Someone will be like, no, this is this type of music. So this is a fun other potential avenue to go down with this idea. For some reason, just the idea of dingle hopper. Ooh. Or I think fruits, regional tools, types of cuisine fall into this thing. So more than genres, like more of a folk thing, like cowberries, right? Or Buckeyes. I think Buckeyes are one of those ones that can mean different things, or different people call Buckeyes food. This is like a peanut butter, or Buckeyes candy. Similar to peanut butter balls, which are completely covered in chocolate. It's a dessert. Also categorized as a candy. Chocolate balls, peanut butter cup, list of peanut dishes. This would be a really fun research project too. Another word for Buckeye. Aesculus, angiospermous tree. Aesculus hippocastanum. It's interesting, I did a tweet recently that people really got into about what kind of activities are you doing for your game design. And a lot of them were research related, with people looking up really cool, fun concepts. I think one was Portuguese tiles. Religious ceremonies was another one, with a focus on funerary traditions and rituals. Logging, like 18th century logging techniques. There's so much fascinating stuff out there that could really be mined creatively for a regional folk sort of a game. Or like pastries. Well, there's another term for folk names. Regional indie and folk music names. Nameberry. Let's get back to our spreadsheet over here. Electronic. Or just Tronica. Or electronica. Electro. Electrobass. Post. Disco, you just take existing. So we'll leave out music here now. Electro clash. Electro, and you can just have Tronica So Ghostronica, Tempotronica, Footronica. Crunk is an important term. Core. Modern. Country. Cool. So a couple of different directions this could go in. Again, just have it be as a one-sheeter. Here I've written them down as cards. That would be pretty easy to prototype with some of the tools that I have using something like Nandeck. Just one big word on a card and print out a bunch of them. This is the kind of concept that I like just making components for and putting them in front of people and seeing what they do with them. Because I think that can be fun and a way to kind of come up with some more creative ideas for stuff. Cool. File, and what will this look like? Yeah. Thinking of it being the sheet. Again, I start to theory craft these types of things and think through, like, how will people receive this? If I just hand out the sheet of paper, what will be the reaction to it? But, you know, just make it a thing, make it a prototype with something this simple. I could easily just make the sheet and print it out. I can make the cards, print them out, cut it out. Compared to my seesaw balance board prototype from last week, this would be a really quick thing to put together. Yeah, just the tough part about this is going to be coming up with like 200 more word terms, music genre terms. I guess at this point the only thing that I'm hesitating about a little bit, I'm talking through my creative design process here because these are the kinds of things that people think about and get hung up on but never really talk about it. So I think it's nice to work through my creative process and share that with you. Hopefully helpful. I'm seeing this, I'm seeing the sheet, I can visualize all of these different words on a page. And I'm thinking, is this game enough? Is this unique enough? Is it interesting enough? Dub. I don't think we have dub yet. And I think at this point, when you do start to bump up against those things, especially put some work, this is a good point because this is something that a person brought up on Twitter recently, I think in response to what are you doing as a game designer recently. Some people had mentioned coming up with an idea, being really excited about it, working through it, and all of a sudden just losing the inspiration and the passion for it. And that's definitely a very real thing. Like looking at this idea, I was very excited. I was like, post-pop. You know, we could smash these words together and see cool things. And just that concept, seeing people do it, seeing people laugh about the weird combinations, I can see that very clearly as the experience of this game. But then beyond that, where the concept goes from there, it's like, and then what? And I feel stressed out about that. You know, I think about that. I'm like, oh, but then there's not really anywhere to go from there. What do you do from there? What does it become? And at that point, you know, it's perfectly okay to not know what to do with it next and feel your inspiration tanking halfway through an idea. And it's okay at that point to put something aside, let it gel a little bit more. But I find often at least finishing the part of the process, taking your thing that you were excited about at some point, that you have a fleeting vision of an experience that's gone now and you don't remember how to recreate it, still doesn't necessarily hurt to make it be a real thing, play around with these components that you were excited about, potentially even get it in front of other people because you might be able to recapture that. Whereas if you find yourself stuck in a loop where you're coming up with ideas, maybe getting them into digital format, into digital cards, and you don't take that next step of making it a physical thing, even showing your broken, weird stuff to other people, you can get stuck doing that, right? You can just keep, it's like, oh, this is a cool idea, and have like 50 ideas, 20 ideas on files in your computer, never have them be physically manifested and never get feedback in that next injection of energy that can come from showing it off to people. So I am feeling a little bit stuck with where this idea is right now, but I think there could be something there. I want to, I'm not going to stream all this because it's just going to be me typing in words and going back and forth for Wikipedia. So I think that might be a little bit boring. But I will make this sheet, and I'll probably just go ahead and do the cards too, because why not, right? This is all about getting more stuff out there. It's meant to be an inspiration for me to get more prototypes in the world, and also for you all. If you see anything interesting, none of these ideas are owned by anybody. If it inspires you to create something, then that's awesome and totally what I'm looking for, and feel free to share that with me. So I think I'm going to dive off and do that, get these put together, posted, maybe share the link online, see what other people do with it, get this idea out in the world and circulating, and not go through the painstaking process live on camera for typing out all those things. I also probably give myself a break, but as always, thank you so much for joining me. This has been super fun. I hope it's been fun and inspiring for you. As always, feel free to chime in. Oh my gosh. In the 11th hour, percussive trance noir. I love that. Noise. Noir. Yeah, you see that made me laugh. I saw that, made me laugh. So I feel like there's got to be some sort of interactive experience going on there. But yeah, always love it when people chime in on the chat, different ideas. Don't be afraid of completely derailing what we're working on, because I am not beholden to anything that's happening here. The whole stream is about experimenting and testing things out and seeing what emerges. I've been working on getting prototypes out for my Tuesday design streams, so you can actually look at that stuff, play around with it a little bit, give feedback. Usually post that on Twitter at Emma Larkins. You can also chat with me there about any sorts of design. If you have any design challenges, those are super fun. We did one a couple of weeks ago. I forget, it was like components, a specific component or something. So if you have a challenge for a stream, that can be super fun to work off of. If you have some ideas, you want to talk about your designs, always happy to chat here and on Twitter as well. That's going to be it for me today. Don't forget, you can follow my channel here. You can subscribe because I'm an affiliate now, so it's super exciting. Always talk to me different places online at Emma Larkins, pretty much everywhere. And I also stream Tuesday mornings over on Gen Con TV Twitch channel, Board Game News, and then Friday afternoons I do a stream about just playing games, playing some Magic, playing some Teamfight Tactics, whatever is the flavor of the month. And I'm working on getting more prototyping streams up. I'm gonna commit, I'm gonna order that new camera so I can make it super easy just to pop over from my spaceship display here to my table and cut out cards. It's gonna be like a picturing almost an ASMR thing, or might even have the microphone turned off. My husband does D&D online right after this, so keep things be quiet, or maybe just have the microphone right on the cutting so you can like hear me cutting out the cards. I don't know if it's gonna be fun or weird, but yeah, I want to get some more prototyping stuff up there because I think it'd be just silly. I like doing silly things. Anyways, I'll catch you again later in the week. Thanks so much for joining, and talk to you again soon. Oh, my traditional sign off. I will see you around the table. Bye.